Hello, thanks for joining me today. As you may have heard, Biden placed additional sanctions on Russia last week, and these sanctions have been amongst the strictest yet. Yet, despite all these sanctions dating back to 2022, the Russian Federation continues to finance its war in Ukraine and in the Kursk region, and even claimed a 3% GDP increase in 2024. The GDP increase was actually called out and after being reviewed by Kosminski University in Poland using an external model. It revealed that their GDP in 2024 had actually dropped by 3%. Still, Russia seems to be managing their economy and continues to fund weapons production, research, and development that keeps their war machine running. How is this possible? Well, Russia has vast natural resources. Most lucrative and most obvious are the large crude oil deposits from western Siberia, from which it extracts roughly 1/5 of the global supply of oil. In 2022, when sanctions were imposed on the Russian Federation, it cleverly evaded sanctions through the implementation of a shadow fleet in order to get the oil out to the global community and bring in oil revenue. The shadow fleet consists of roughly 430 very large category crude tankers. These tankers are capable of carrying 2 to 3 million barrels each. Shadow fleet tankers are usually at the end of their lifespan, so that means they're 15 years old or older. They're often uninsured, meaning that no oil spill insurance is being provided by the carrier, and they make use of flags of convenience. For instance, they may use the flag of Gabon. Gabon is a nation in Africa ruled by a military dictatorship. This complicates the management infrastructure, which helps conceal the origins of the cargo. They also transload oil while underway. For instance, they may move oil offshore from Primorsk, which is a major export port near St. Petersburg. They will then transit European waters and then link up with an Indian ship, for example, flagged Panamanian in the South Atlantic. This Panamanian flag ship is then available to sell oil anywhere in the world. Some of these vessels even make their way to New York Harbor. So yes, it is possible that the U.S. is actually helping Russia fund the war in Ukraine. I actually heard this for the first time in shock a few months ago on 60 Minutes. The problem is that the oil isn't exactly trackable, so you can't just place an RFID tag on oil, obviously, so essentially there's very little recourse other than to clamp down on the tankers themselves that are displaying characteristics of a shadow fleet vessel. And we'll get into what the sanctions that Biden imposed last week will do, because that's just what the US and the EU are doing. Denmark is at the heart of this battleground, and what they do is to look for ships that are transmitting false data, identifying vessels that are uninsured, vessels that have had an automatic identification system blackout more than once. So these are red flags. And then, of course, tankers that are more than 15 years old that routinely carry heavy payloads. So that's 2.5 million barrels or more, for instance. Denmark is at the leading edge of identifying shadow fleet vessels, as the Danish Straits are where the majority of these vessels pass as they transit out of European waters. The problem is that the Danish Straits are international waters, so there is still little recourse for Danish authorities to take. The EU and US have recently taken a firmer stance and are now specifically targeting vessels by name. This recent Biden oil sanction imposed on Russia includes a list of 150 tankers that are being targeted for apprehension and possible seizure. These 150 ships will not be allowed into ports. The G7 ports, EU ports, and in India also agreed upon this. If completed, this would degrade Russia's shadow fleet by up to 30%, according to a Citigroup finding. This translates up to 800,000 barrels per day, which should be a serious concern for Russia, as this is their primary source of financing for the war in Ukraine. So Russia is skating a fine line right now financially, and with the $60 per barrel cap in place, this could spell serious trouble for the Russian Federation. So Russia must make over $60 per barrel in order to continue to fund the war in Ukraine. This is according to Olha Zadorna, an economist at Kosminski University in Poland. So this new round of sanctions may upset the balance over the long term. So thanks for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this segment. Let me know what your thoughts are on the subject. Hope to see you back to the channel next time. Thanks again.